Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Blog Podcast. Today is Friday, December 21st, 2018. Today I'm going to recap yesterday's college bowl game, look ahead and pick today's games. I will do NBA, NHL, college basketball, go over some baseball signings and trades, an NFL suspension, and my Week 16 NFL picks. All right, we're going to start with college football. There's a bowl game last night. Marshall defeats South Florida by a score of 38-20 in the Grispilla Bowl. I had Marshall, and they won easily. They're obviously the better team. USF was in free fall mode, so that was, to me, one of the easiest picks of the bowl season. And now today you have two games. You have FIU and Toledo, 12:30 on ESPN. And then you have Western Michigan against BYU at 4 o'clock on ESPN. Toledo 7-5 and then 5-3 in conference play. FIU 8-4 and 6-2 in conference play. This should be a fun bowl game. The Panthers exceeded all expectations to get to this spot, and that's credit to Butch Davis, who's building a very respectable program down there. The Rockets, to me, are a team that has somewhat underachieved of some sort in a West Division in the MAC that seemed to be up for grabs this year and every year. The pick here is the Panthers because they feel like they have something to prove here. So, give me the Panthers to win the Bahamas Bowl. And I believe they're an underdog here. A 7-point underdog. I'm grabbing those 7. I think they win outright. This should be Toledo by 3.5. That is way too high. I think FIU wins outright. I just don't think Toledo's that great. And I think they're overrating them because they were a great team in the MAC a couple years ago. BYU against Western Michigan. BYU is a 12.5-point favorite. Tim Lester did a great job getting this Broncos team to back-to-back bowl games after TJ Fleck left for Minnesota. The Cougars are back in the bowl after a one-year hiatus, and I think the Cougars have the better team led by quarterback Zach Wilson, and I expect them to get the win. So give me BYU. That number's very high, so instead I'm going to take the over-under. I'm going to take over 52.5 because I think BYU can score and I think Western can score. So I think this is a somewhat sneaky over. It opened at 48.5 and it's up to 52.5. So something tells me to take the over here and bank on this final score being in the range of 30-24, 30-26 or something like that. And I do think that this has a chance to be a close game. And the other thing I can see is BYU winning 35-21. That would easily hit the over and for BYU to cover. And I'll pick tomorrow's bowl games on tomorrow's podcast. Let's move on to college basketball. Just going to go over the scores and the records too. Winthrop defeats Maryland Eastern 88-74. Winthrop 6-4. UMass 1-11. Holy Cross defeats Canisius 65-63. Holy Cross 7-4. Canisius 3-7. Western Illinois defeats Chicago State 81-52. Western Illinois 5-8. Chicago State 3-11. Kennesaw State defeats Southeastern 90-72. Kennesaw State is now 3-10. Purdue defeats Ohio 95-67. Purdue 7-5. Ohio 7-4. Number 2 Duke defeats number 12 Texas Tech 69-58 at Madison Square Garden. Duke goes to 11-1. Texas Tech drops to 10-1. Pitt defeats New Orleans 99-57. Pitt 9-3. New Orleans 5-5. Notre Dame defeats Jacksonville 100-74. Notre Dame 9-3. Jacksonville 7-6. Fordham defeats James Madison 75-48. Fordham 9-3. James Madison 7-6. Albany defeats Manhattan 77-67. Albany 4-9, and Manhattan 2-9. Yale defeats Monmouth 66-58. Yale 6-3, and Monmouth 0-12. FIU defeats Florida Memorial 108-67 as FIU goes to 9-3. Northern Kentucky defeats Northern Illinois 65-62. Northern Kentucky 10-3. Northern Illinois 6-5. Appalachian State defeats Billigan 99-60 as App State goes to 5-7. Purdue Fort Wayne defeats Siena Heights 106-45. Purdue Fort Wayne 8-7. Miami of Ohio defeats South Carolina State 79-55. Miami of Ohio 7-5. South Carolina State 2-12. Tennessee Tech defeats Savannah State 91-80. Tennessee Tech 4-8. Savannah 3-10. Ball State defeats Howard 98-71. Ball State 8-4. Howard 6-6. Creighton defeats Co 110-60. Creighton is 8-4. Number 21 Houston defeats Utah State 60-50. Houston 11-0. Utah State 9-3. South Alabama defeats Mobile 86-47. South Alabama is now 7-5. North Texas defeats Arkansas Pine Bluff 77-66. North Texas 12-1. Arkansas Pine Bluff 3-8. UTSA defeats A&M Corpus Christi 64-50. UTSA 5-7. A&M Corpus Christi is 5-6. Long Beach State defeats Pepperdine 67-66. Long Beach is 4-9. Pepperdine 6-7. Seattle defeats Prairie View 102-64. Seattle 11-3. Prairie View is 1-10. And last but not least, CSU Bakersfield defeats Portland State 67-61. Bakersfield is 8-4 and Portland State is 5-6. Today's games at halftime right now, Dartmouth and Bryant. About to get underway, you have St. Bonaventure Northeastern, Binghamton, LIU Brooklyn, Alabama State Liberty, Bryant Chattanooga, 1 o'clock Central Arkansas Oklahoma State, UMBC Hood, Western Carolina Bowling Green, Milligan at UNC Asheville, and that's a 2 o'clock game. 2:30 Campbell and Austin P. That is being held at Austin Peay's home arena. Kent State, Oregon State, 3 o'clock, 3:30. Fairleigh Dickinson, UMass, 5 o'clock. Towson and Tulane from Atlantic City. Corbin University at Eastern Washington, 5:30. Indiana Purdue at Morehead State. 6 o'clock Georgia Southern Radford, 6:30 UC Irvine Butler, 7 o'clock Oakland at number 10 Michigan State. Robert Morris at Louisville. Detroit Mercy at Xavier. Oregon at Baylor on ESPN2. Eastern Illinois and Iowa State. Coastal Carolina Charleston. Wilmington and Mercer. Illinois State UCF. Alcorn State South Florida. Navy George Mason. Loyola Maryland and UMass Lowell. North Alabama VMI. Stetson Longwood. Bethune-Cookman and BU. East Tennessee State and Wyoming. And that's being held in El Paso. Princeton and Lafayette. LaSalle and Alabama A&M from Atlantic City at 7:30. Charleston Southern hosts Johnson and Wales, North Carolina. Arlington Baptist at Stephen F. Austin. Appling Christian at Southeast Missouri State. 8 o'clock NCAT at Minnesota. Ole Miss at Middle Tennessee. Number 24 Furman at LSU. That's their toughest game yet. That's probably going to be their first loss, but you never know. Florida A&M at Portland. Coppin State, UL Monroe. Omaha Rice. Southern Miss, South Dakota. Howard at Payne at Lamar. St. Francis, Illinois at Illinois Chicago. Troy at UAB. 8:15 Vermont at Lipscomb. A big one on Fox Sports 1. Another team that can get their first loss tonight is number 14 Buffalo, a 3-point underdog at number 20 Marquette. 9 o'clock you have the Big Ten Network, Oklahoma at Northwestern. I think Northwestern badly needs that win. Penn State at Alabama. Providence at Texas, 9 o'clock ESPN2. Denver at number 8, Gonzaga. Northern Arizona against Utah. Sacramento State at Washington on the Pac-12 Network. Norfolk State at UTEP. And that's also from El Paso. 10 o'clock, Idaho at Santa Clara. Texas Arlington at Cal Poly. San Jose State at Cal. And last but not least, 11 o'clock on the Pac-12 Network. Southern Utah is playing against USC. We're going to move on to NBA now. Only 2 games were played last night. The Heat defeat the Rockets 101-99. No Chris Paul for most of this game due to an injury. Miami is now 14-16. That was a huge win for them. Houston drops to 16-15. Leading the way for Miami, Josh Richardson, 22 points, 6 boards, 7 assists. Tyler Johnson had 19. James Johnson had 11 off the bench. Dwayne Wade had 10. And Derek Jones Jr. had 15, including a big 3-pointer late in that game. James Harden did everything he could to win the game. He had 35 points, 12 assists, and 6 boards. Eric Gordon had 20. P.J. Tucker had 14. Chris Paul only had 4, and then he got hurt. And Daniel House Jr. had 10 off the bench, including a couple big 3-pointers. The Clippers defeat the Mavericks 125-121. This was an entertaining game. Clippers go to 18-13, and Dallas drops to 15-15. Danilo Gallinari had 32 points, 6 boards, and 4 assists. Tobias Harris had 16. Off the bench, Montrezl Harrell had 18, and Lou Williams had 26. And Luka Doncic, who was the best player on the court in defeat, 32 points, 4 boards, 5 assists. DeAndre Jordan had 11 points and 22 boards in his return to Los Angeles. Harrison Barnes had 16. Off the bench, Devin Harris had 13, and J.J. Barea off the bench had 19. Tonight's a much bigger slate. At 7 o'clock, you have the Pistons at the Hornets, the Cavs at the Raptors, 7:30, the Hawks at the Knicks, the Pacers at the Nets, 8 o'clock on ESPN, the Bucks at the Celtics. I think Boston's going to be motivated to be playing in their home building against a team that they beat in the playoffs a year ago. This is a big spot for the Celtics on national TV. They tend to rise to the occasion in games like this at home. So give me the Boston Celtics in a close one. Let's say by a score of 110-108. And they're a 1-point favorite in the game, too. You have the Magic at the Bulls. At 8:30, you have the Timberwolves at the Spurs. 10 o'clock, the Jazz at the Trailblazers. The Grizzlies at the Kings. And at 10:30 on ESPN, you have the Pelicans at the Lakers. And Anthony Davis against LeBron. This should be a great game in Los Angeles. All eyes are going to be on this game, because everybody loves watching Laker home games, and their young players tend to rise to the occasion, as well as who I think is the MVP favorite right now in LeBron. So give me LeBron and the Lakers to get the home win here over Davis and the Pelicans. And I don't think the Pelicans are very good. Let's go by a score of 113-100. I think it's a double-digit win for LeBron. NHL, big slate last night. The Bruins defeat the Ducks 3-1. Big win for Boston to improve the 19-12-4. Anaheim drops to 19-13-5. Number 1 started the game with 24 saves on 25 shots, Yaroslav Halak. Number 2 started the game with a goal and assist, Torrey Krug. Number 3 started the game with a goal and 2 assists, David Pastrnak. The Maple Leafs destroy the Panthers 6-1 as the Leafs improve to 23-10-2. Florida drops to 13-14-6. Number 1 started the game with 2 goals and 2 assists, Austin Matthews. Number 2 started the game with 2 goals, John Tavares. And the number 3 started the game with 4 assists, Morgan Riley. The Flyers defeat the Predators 2-1. So Carter Hart is now 2-0, as the Predators are also 2-0 without Dave Hextall, as they improved to 14-15-4. Nashville drops to 22-12-2. Number 1 started the game with 31 saves on 32 shots, Carter Hart. Number 2 started the game with a goal, Claude Giroux. And the number 3 started the game, didn't have any points, but just had a good impact on the game, Robert Hagg. The Penguins defeat the Wild 2-1. Good back-to-back wins for Pittsburgh as they go to 17-12-6. Minnesota drops to 17-15-2. Number 1 started the game with 2 goals, Brian Rust. Number 2 started the game with 2 assists, Jake Gusnetzel. And the number 3 started the game with 40 saves on 41 shots, Casey DeSmith. The Red Wings defeat the Hurricanes 4-1. Impressive win for Detroit. They go to 15-16-5. Carolina drops to 14-14-5. Number 1 started the game with 38 saves on 39 shots, Jonathan Bernier. Number 2 started the game with a goal and assist, Nicholas Cronwall. And the number 3 started the game with the goal, Andrei Svechnikov. The Blue Jackets defeat the Devils 2-1. The Jackets improved to 19-12-3. New Jersey drops to 11-15-7. Number 1 star of the game with the goal, Cam Atkinson. Number 2 star of the game with 29 saves on 30 shots, Sergei Bobrovsky. And the number 3 star of the game with 36 saves on 38 shots, the third string goaltender, Mackenzie Blackwood. The Blackhawks defeat the Stars 5-2, an impressive win for the Chicago Blackhawks to improve to 12-9-6. Dallas drops to 17-15-3. Number 1 star of the game with 2 goals and assists, Patrick Kane. Number 2 star of the game with 2 assists, Jamie Benn. Number 3 star of the game with the goal, Eric Gustafsson. The Lightning defeat the Flames 5-4 in the shootout. This was a great game. I thought this was the best game of the night last night. I thought Calgary would win this game. But no, Tampa Bay comes away with the victory. 27-7-2 on the year now. Calgary drops to 22-11-3. Number 1 star of the game with a goal and assist, Johnny Gaudreau. And the number 2 star of the game with 2 assists, Nikita Kucherov. And the number 3 star of the game with the goal and assist, Sean Bennett. The Canadiens defeat the Coyotes 2-1. The Canadiens improved to 18-13-5. Arizona drops to 14-18-2. Number 1 star of the game with 36 saves on 37 shots, Carey Price. Number 2 star of the game with a goal and assist, Olivier Ekman-Larsson. Number 3 star of the game with the goal, Shea Weber. The Canucks defeat the Blues 5-1. The Canucks improved to 17-17-4. St. Louis drops to 13-16-4. Number 1 star of the game with 29 saves on 30 shots, Jacob Markstrom. Number 2 star of the game with the goal and assist, Bo Horvat. And the number 3 star of the game with 2 assists, Alexander Edler. The Golden Knights defeat the Islanders 4-2 in come from behind fashion. They're down 2-0 in the second period. They came from behind and won. Vegas 20-15-2. Islanders 17-13-4. Number 1 star of the game with the goal, Paul Stastny. Number 2 star of the game with a goal and 2 assists, Nate Schmidt. And the number 3 star of the game with a goal, Brandon Peary. The Jets defeat the Sharks 5-3. Good win for Winnipeg. They get to 23-10-2. San Jose drops to 19-12-5. Number 1 star of the game with the hat trick, Nikolaj Ehlers. Number 2 star of the game with 41 saves on 44 shots, Connor Hellebuck. And the number 3 star of the game with the goal and assist, Evander Kane. Only 3 games on tonight's slate. You have at 7 o'clock, Senators at the Devils. And then on NBCSN, a rare Friday night game on NBCSN. That's a nice holiday treat. A great game, too. You have the Sabres at the Capitals. So, yet another national televised home game for the Caps. And I think they'll bounce back from the Pittsburgh loss and get a win here against a Sabre team that I feel is better off at home rather than on the road. But they did win a big road game in Boston. Tough to play there. But I like Washington here at home. They'll bounce back from the loss against Pittsburgh. And they need this game more than Buffalo. And the Blackhawks at the Avalanche at 9 o'clock. Josh Gordon left the Patriots yesterday to take care of some health situations, which led to an indefinite suspension by the NFL. I think he knew about his suspension, so that's why he tweeted it before the league announced it, and just didn't admit that he was getting suspended. This is a big loss for the Patriots. The Patriots' offense was good when he was in the lineup, and now, without him, it'll be a little difficult for them. Although what the Pats should do is get James White back more involved in the offense. Maybe he's not healthy. Chris Hogan's been a disappointment this year, although he had the big play against the Steelers. Other than that, he hasn't done anything. Maybe he gets involved a little bit. Jan Edelman's still decent. And Gordon had a couple key drops in that Pittsburgh game, which ultimately cost him the game, along with that interception by Tom Brady later in the game. But this is yet a big loss for the Pats in that offense. Maybe they pick somebody up on waivers or whatnot. And breaking NFL news, Odell Beckham out again against the Indianapolis Colts. The Giants are trying to tank here. I'm sorry. If he was healthy, or not if he was healthy, if the Giants were still mathematically alive for a playoff spot, he'd be playing. That's just my opinion. They're trying to finish 5-11 and finish with a top 5 pick so they can draft Dwayne Haskins, and they want to finish with a worse record than the Jacksonville Jaguars. And you can tell the Jaguars tried to tank the game against the Redskins because they saw that the Giants are losing. Tom Coughlin knows what he's doing there in Jacksonville. And they're trying to get Dwayne Haskins too because they hate Blake Bortles, and they know they messed up by extending him, and I knew that was a mistake at the time because I just had a feeling that that was a one-year aberration for Bortles. And I feel that way about Mitch Trubisky, but the case is that Mitch Trubisky's in his second season. So maybe Trubisky will turn out to be good. Some baseball news quickly. Daniel Murphy signed with the Colorado Rockies, 2 years, $24 million. Good get for Colorado. The consensus thought is that he's going to be playing both second base and first base there. My knee-jerk reaction was, he's going to play second for them because maybe they know that they're not re-signing DJ LeMahieu. And if the Phillies miss out on Manny Machado, I think that they could end up making a run at DJ LeMahieu to play second base for them and making Cesar Hernandez either trade bait or a utility guy for them. And another big signing that happened yesterday was Andrew Miller signing with the St. Louis Cardinals. Became official today. 2 years. I believe it's $25 million for Andrew Miller. Yeah, 2 years, $25 million, according to Ken Rosenthal. Great guy for the Cardinals. He'll be their closer. They needed a big-time reliever, and they landed it with Miller. Miller, to me, though, is in decline and isn't the same reliever, but a 2-year deal is right for Miller. And he's been hurt a lot. To me, he really hasn't been the same since he gave up that home run to Greg Bird in the 2007 ALDS when he was with the Indians. He really hasn't had a relevant big moment for the Indians since he gave up that home run. And that, looking back, that cost him the series probably because the Yankees rallied after that and ended up in the ALCS against Houston and took them to 7. But Miller, I think, when healthy, is a great fit for Cardinals. Much needed addition for them. And the relievers left on the market, Adam Ottavino, Zach Britton, David Robertson, Kelvin Herrera, Craig Kimbrell. Although I think Craig Kimbrell's going to wind up back with the Red Sox because I'm hearing that they're monitoring Kimbrell's situation. And I did predict that they'd re-sign him because the theme of their offseason so far is bringing back their World Series team. And yes, that includes Nathan Eovaldi, Steve Pearce. So that feels like that's going to happen. I'm going to do my NFL picks for week number 16. We're going to start with tomorrow afternoon. The Washington Redskins are at the Tennessee Titans, 4:30 on the NFL Network. Washington got a big win in Jacksonville against the Jaguars to keep their season alive. Tennessee gets the big road win in New Jersey against the Giants to keep their playoff hopes alive too. Derrick Henry has been perhaps the AFC's best running back over the past 2 weeks, and I think he leads the Titans to a big win to set up a big matchup on what I think will end up being the Sunday night game against the Indianapolis Colts to determine your AFC's final wild card spot. 27-10 is my score, Titans, and I do think the play here is the -10. The night game on NFL Network on Saturday is the Baltimore Ravens at the Los Angeles Chargers. The Ravens are coming off a home win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the game they had to have. The Chargers are coming off a big-time road win in Kansas City against the Chiefs, which, in my opinion, made themselves the favorites in the AFC West. I think they're going to go out there and win big. Lamar Jackson in primetime, to me, is a problem rather than an advantage. I think the Chargers are going to win this game by double digits. I'm going to say 34-20, and I'm laying that 4 easily. Tampa Bay is at Dallas, 1 o'clock on Fox. Tampa Bay is coming off a loss in Baltimore against the Ravens. Dallas is coming off a shutout loss in Indianapolis against the Colts. I think that Dallas is under pressure to get the win here to wrap up the NFC East, with Washington and Philly keeping themselves alive with wins last week. So give me Dallas to win and to cover the 7, 27-17. Buffalo at New England, 1 o'clock on CBS. Buffalo is coming off their win at home against the Detroit Lions. New England is coming off a road loss in Pittsburgh against the Steelers. Despite all the stuff that happened with Josh Gordon, they absolutely have to have this game whatsoever. And I think they get the win 24-13. But the play here is plus 13.5 with the Bills. I think that's too high. I think this is no more than a 13-point game. The hook enticed me with taking the Bills here against the spread, but New England obviously wins. The Falcons are at the Panthers, 1 o'clock on Fox. No Cam Newton. Julio Jones probable. The Falcons are coming off their best performance of the year, a blowout home win over the Arizona Cardinals. The Panthers are coming off the devastating loss at home against the Saints on Monday Night Football. No Cam Newton, no win for the Panthers. I'm taking Atlanta to win big, 27-13. They're covering the 3 with ease. Jacksonville at Miami, 1 o'clock on CBS. Jacksonville's coming off that brutal home loss against the Washington Redskins. And I had Washington outright last week, by the way. Miami is coming off a letdown performance in Minnesota against the Vikings. I think this is a bounce-back performance for the Dolphins here. And I think they get the win here by a score of 20-13. The Giants are at the Colts, 1 o'clock on CBS. It was just announced that Odell Beckham won't play, so I have to change my score here a little bit. Or my score prediction. The Giants are coming off that terrible shutout home loss against the Tennessee Titans. The Colts are coming off a big win over Dallas, the game they absolutely needed to have. They absolutely have to have this game. No Odell Beckham Jr. You should be able to win this game going away. I originally had 34-27 Indianapolis, but I'm changing it to 34-20 with the absence of Odell Beckham Jr. So the play here is over 47. It would have been the play anyway. I still think the Giants can cover the point spread even without Odell, because I could see Indianapolis peeking ahead a little bit to Tennessee, but Odell's not playing, so I'm going to say 34-20 Indianapolis, but the play here will be the over rather than taking the minus 9.5. But the line probably moved up to like 11, because after it was announced that Odell wasn't playing last week, the Giants went from a favorite to an underdog, and it was literally a 3-point swing. So I think Indy's going to be a double-digit favorite at kickoff. So the over's the play there at 47. The Texans are at the Eagles, 1 o'clock on CBS. No Carson Wentz. Nick Foles is in again. Texans coming off that big win in New Jersey against the Jets. Philadelphia coming off their season-saving win in Los Angeles against the Rams. To me, the wrong team is favored. I think Houston should be favored. But Philly's favored, so that tells me, So I'm picking the Eagles here. 27-24. I'm picking the over 46 as well. 1.5's a little dicey. I think Houston can win the game. So I'm going over 46 as my play. I'm taking the Eagles to win the game straight up. 1 o'clock on Fox, you have the Vikings at the Lions. The Vikings are coming off a much-needed home win over the Miami Dolphins. Detroit coming off a bad road loss in Buffalo against the Bills. I think this game is closer than the experts think. Minnesota needs it more. So give me the Vikings 26-23, but the play here is the +6 from the Lions. But for it to be a 3-point game. Green Bay Packers at the New York Jets, 1 o'clock on Fox. Aaron Rodgers is going to play. The Packers are coming off a bad road loss in Chicago against the Bears, which saw their playoff hopes go away. The Jets are coming off a home loss against the Houston Texans, in which it was an inspiring game since Sam Darnold played so well. And it had the critics that killed the Giants for taking Saquon Barkley over Sam Darnold talking again, but it was one game. Saquon Barkley is a Pro Bowler and Sam Darnold is not. But that's the Packers are winning this game. They're the better team. And I don't think the Jets are trustworthy to win a game because their coach is terrible and they're trying to lose to get a good draft pick. So Green Bay will win. Let's go 24-17. But I really like the under here at 47. That's a really sneaky under. Because I just don't see the Jets having that good of a performance as last week. And like I said, they're trying to lose to get a good draft pick. And 24 plus 17 is 41. The over-under is 47, so that makes it an easy under for me. Cincinnati at Cleveland, 1 o'clock on CBS. Obviously, no Andy Dalton. Cincinnati coming off a good home win over the Oakland Raiders to show, hey, we're still fighting for our coach to save his job. Cleveland coming off an enormous road win in Denver against the Broncos in a Saturday night primetime game. I think Baker Mayfield has become the favorite for the Rookie of the Year with that good performance and keeping the Browns in playoff contention, quote-unquote, because I really don't think they're making the playoffs in Week 16. So, to me, I think that'll sway voters to vote for Baker Mayfield rather than Saquon Barkley. Because let's face it, Saquon Barkley has the reputation of the Giants should have taken Darnold over him, so he doesn't deserve Rookie of the Year. And that's not Saquon's fault. That's the Giants' fault. They'll save that for another day. So I expect the Browns to go out there and win big, and for the Bengals to have a bit of a letdown. 31-13. They're covering the 8.5 with ease. Into the 4 o'clock window on Fox, the Rams at the Cardinals. Todd Gurley probable. Rams coming off just a terrible home loss against the Philadelphia Eagles. Arizona coming off a horrible road loss in Atlanta against the Falcons. There's talks that their coach could get fired now, which I think is crazy. Year one coaches usually don't get fired by teams like the Cardinals. Steve Wilkes really hasn't done a good job this year, but he doesn't have a good team, and that's not his fault. People think he might get fired because of Josh Rosen's inability to improve. But we'll save that for another day. I think that this game could be closer than the experts think because of how bad the Rams have been, especially Jared Goff. I think the Rams get the win 26-13, but I'm taking the plus 14.5 for the Cardinals to keep this close. You have Chicago at San Francisco, 4 o'clock on Fox as well. Chicago's coming off the big home win against the Packers to win the NFC North. The 49ers are coming off an overtime home win over the Seattle Seahawks to help ruin Seattle's chances at the number 5 seed a little bit. But that said, Chicago's due for a letdown after that big win. So, you've been trapped, Chicago. San Francisco's winning their 3rd straight home game. And I'm going to say by a score of 23-20, they'll get the win. So my play is the +4 with the Niners for the Niners to win outright. 4:25 CBS, the marquee game of the week. The Pittsburgh Steelers at the New Orleans Saints. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, Tracy Wolfson on the call. The Steelers are coming off a big-time home win over the New England Patriots to keep their hopes of winning the AFC North alive. I think they're going to win the division because I think that the Ravens lose to the Chargers and the Steelers lose to the Saints, but the Steelers have the tiebreaker over the Ravens, which would nail them their division title. But that was a big-time win for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That makes up for a lot of those bad losses, in my opinion, even though the Pats aren't really the Pats anymore. But beating the Patriots, who were their demons, and the team that's owned them for all those years, is a step in the right direction for the Steelers. And the Saints are coming off what I thought was an abysmal performance in Carolina against the Panthers. Or I should say Charlotte, even though they won the game. I thought their performance was abysmal. That said, I think New Orleans gets the win here by a score of 27-20 to try to lock up home field advantage in the NFC. But the play here is under 53. I think there's going to be 47 points in this game. Like I said, 27 plus 20, that's 47. So the play here is under 53. Sunday night, you have the Kansas City Chiefs at the Seattle Seahawks, 8:20 NBC. Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, and Michelle Tafoya on the call. Kansas City coming off a brutal home loss against the Los Angeles Chargers. Seattle coming off a bad overtime road loss in San Francisco against the 49ers. Seattle is just absolutely poised to win this game here. They're not the better team, but they're the home team at night. Seattle's winning this game outright. Russell Wilson doesn't lose home primetime games. Russell Wilson is going to make a statement and put himself as an MVP frontrunner with this performance against the Chiefs. Seattle 30, Kansas City 24. I'm getting 2.5 points, and it's a rare opportunity to take Seattle as a home underdog in a night game. So Seahawks outright, 30-24. And then last but not least, Monday Night Football, Denver at Oakland, 8:15, ESPN. Joe Tessitore, Jason Witten, Booger McFarland, Lisa Salters on the call. Denver coming off what I think was a death nail home loss against the Cleveland Browns in primetime on Saturday night. Oakland coming off a bad road loss in Cincinnati against the Bengals in a game which I thought they'd win. I think the Raiders bounce back and get the home win here. Denver, I think, is finished. So give me Oakland 23-20 at home on Christmas Eve night. Before I go, Jurickson Profar was traded today from the Texas Rangers to the Oakland Athletics. It was a 3-team trade. A bunch of minor leaguers going to Tampa Bay and Texas in the deal. Tampa Bay was somehow in that deal. Nothing really relevant other than Profar going to Oakland. This tells me that they're not bringing back Jed Lowry. And Texas giving up on what was a number one prospect in the Prospect America's Top 100 about 6 years ago. He certainly turned out to be a disappointment among guys that were expected to be all-stars. And last but not least, I'm going to do my best bet of the day. I'm going to do it courtesy of DraftKings. I'm not going to do the bowl game today because FIU's an underdog. I really don't feel good about them winning the game outright. So I may touch on some college hoops and some NBA. Going to get a little giddy here. Going to lay $5. Give me Oklahoma State against Central Arkansas. Bowling Green against Western Carolina. South Florida against Alcorn State. Xavier against Detroit. UCF against Illinois State. Actually, no, I'm going to lay off on that one because I think Illinois State's a good team. I'm laying off on George Mason against Navy. I'm going to do Louisiana Monroe against Coppin State. Portland against Florida A&M. I'm going to hold my breath with that one. Minnesota against NCAT. I'm not touching Ole Miss against Middle Tennessee because Middle Tennessee's home. Not touching Lipscomb against Vermont because both of those teams are pretty good. Utah at home against Northern Arizona. Washington at home against Sacramento State. I'm not touching USC against Southern Utah because I'm not impressed with them. I'm taking the Raptors against the Cavaliers. I think that's a no-brainer. There's nothing really I like in NBA other than the Raptors. I want to take the Avalanche at home against the Blackhawks. The Blackhawks are on the second of a back-to-back. And I don't like teams on the second of a back-to-back very much, especially on the road. But I don't feel good about it. I'm going to take the Avalanche, and then I'm actually going to take USC against Southern Utah and hold my breath. I'm going to lay a whopping $5.80. It's plus 173 to win $15.83, and that's my best bet of the day. And that's it for today's podcast. As by the way, Toledo up 7-0 against FIU already. Tomorrow I'll recap the 2 bowl games in college football, NBA, NHL, college basketball. Maybe more baseball signings happen tomorrow, and I'll analyze the 2 Saturday football games and discuss anything else that happens in the world of sports. I hope you guys have a great day, everybody.